Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a really smoky eye with sort of a copper bright inner corner look. And today I'm really going to deep dive into what I do, as I feel like in a lot of my tutorials I explain it, but I don't really drill into it. So today I'm going to be going into that in a little bit more detail than usual. Okay, so diving straight in, I am first cleansing her face, and I'm removing any additional oils on the face using Garnier's micellar water just on the back of a damp cotton pad. Doing this, it's just going to enable that, you know, any sort of extra sebum she had on the surface of her skin, it's really going to be cleansed off. And then I am mixing in Decleor's Neroli face cleanser. It's a cleansing milk in with that, just to ensure that any impurities are really removed from the skin and that skin gets that sense of hydration and nutrients back. Now adding some moisturiser. The moisturiser I'm using here is Benefit's Total Moisture, the one that comes in a little bit of a pot. And I'm just really applying this to the centre of her face and any areas that are particularly dry, but trying to centralise the hydration around the whole of the face really. Okay, so diving into the makeup. First, I am brushing her brows up using a spoolie. This is just on the back of my Kelly Baker brow pencil. And then using that pencil, I'm taking the shade Brown and I'm starting to outline the shape of her natural brow, just going underneath the brow and on top of the brow. Next, I am taking Benefit's Brow Pomade in the shade 4 and I'm starting to fill in those brows where I set that stencil with the pencil. I'm dragging this along the centre of the brow and flicking it up at the start of the brow. Where she has more coarse hair, I'm actually focusing less product so that the brows can look really even. So in the areas where her hairs are more sparse, I can really fill those in, because if you put product on top of really coarse hairs, you're never going to get that even product across the entire eyebrow. That was something I actually learned from Makeup by Ariel when I went to his masterclass, and it's actually a tip that I've carried with me since December time. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to brush through it with the spoolie on the back of my Anastasia Beverly Hills brow brush. Now to neaten those up, I'm going underneath the brows with some concealer. The concealer I'm using here is Tarte's Shape Tape in the shade Fair. And I'm just going underneath those and bringing them into the middle, just to really neaten them up and give that brow that real lift that it needs. And then applying the rest of the concealer on the back of my brush to the remainder of the lid. I'm then buffing this in using a brush. Using that brush, you want to make sure that the edges of the concealer are really seamless and that any creasing of the concealer in the crease of the eye is really buffed out. And then I'm just repeating the same process on the opposite eye. Next, I'm removing any additional concealer from underneath the eye with Garnier's micellar water on that cotton pad again. And then I am setting the eye using Laura Mercier's translucent powder just to stop any creasing of the concealer. I have actually recently found the P. Louise base from a training course I went on, and I'm going to be using that for future videos, as I think the pigmentation that you can get from shadows is so much better, but because this shadow does seem to crease for me, I would always set it. Okay, so first taking the Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette, I'm using the shade Sandalwood. just to set the crease of her eye, to really ensure that once we go in with more pigments, we're really going to be able to have that really seamless blending. And to do this, I am just using quite window washing motions with the back of my brush. The brush I'm using here is from Zoeva. Okay, so now I'm going to pack on the colour onto the lid. This colour is Rustic from Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I mean, since I've been on training the other day, I would actually do this entirely differently now. Because I really don't think, as you can see, it's taking me a lot of effort to really pack that pigment on, but that would be the way I would apply it, in that almost that semicircle shape, just initially, as we're going to buff out the edges later, so don't worry about being too precious about it. And now just buffing out the edges of that shadow. And going back in with whatever's remaining on that initial brush that we applied Huda Beauty's Sandalwood shade with. Now going in with a darker brown shade. This is from, I believe this is from the Morphe palette. I will link it down below. And I'm just moving that darker brown shade into the crease to really make the hollows of her eye more prominent, so it looks like they're more sunken in, and give that smokiness a real deep gradient. And then going back in with that initial brush and taking a little bit more sandalwood just to buff in all the colours together nicely. Next I'm taking the colour Suede from the Huda Beauty palette, and this is a light grey shade, and I'm just buffing it to the outer corners just to give a little bit of depth. Now taking the shade Noir from Anastasia Beverly Hills and using this as a winged liner to the very centre of her lash line. And winging this out using a angled brush from Zoeva and buffing that out to give a really smoky lash line. I'm now intensifying this with that original Rustic shade, so it looks like it's almost quite a browny colour, and that's also going to intensify the black shade that we set down first. Now going over this with a thin line of Maybelline's gel liner in the colour Black. I apply Duraline to my gel liner just to make it run almost like a liquid liner, and I'm applying this using a Zoeva angled brush. Now applying some mascara to the roots of the lashes using a disposable spoolie, and I'm actually using Rimmel London's mascara, which I will attach down below. Now applying some Demi Wispies by Ardell, and I initially measured these to the shape of her eye and trimmed them as necessary, and just applying them to the base of where we applied that Maybelline gel liner, so it looks seamless and you can't really see the lash line once it dries. Now Now going in with strobe cream, here I'm using MAC's Peach Light in the centre of her face, and that's just going to give her a bit of natural luminosity under the foundation we're going to use. The foundation I am going to use is quite full coverage, so it's going to give that sort of luminosity, as I say, back to the skin and have that initial backlight that we need. And then I'm removing any fallout from eyeshadows directly underneath the eye as well. Now applying her foundation. The foundation I am using, as always, is Marc Jacobs Remarkable Foundation. This is in the shade Ivory, and I'm centralising that more product in the centre of her face, but also applying it to the outer perimeters as well. And blending that out using a beauty blender in patting motions, and I'm really pushing it into the skin as I pat. I'm applying quite a lot of pressure behind it, so it really does get pushed into and works into the skin because it's quite a high coverage foundation, so I don't want to look like it's sitting on top of the skin. I really want it to look like it's really moulded with the skin. And I'm applying this with a very damp beauty blender. Applying slightly more foundation to the centre of the face, just to really give that skin-like effect. And repeating the same process on the opposite side. I'm then applying a little bit more to the bottom parameters of her face as well. And you want to make sure that you cover the neck, as the neck really just needs to blend down, and just so it looks really seamless. And then going underneath with that Tarte Shape Tape Concealer again in the shade Fair. I like this for Hattie because it really brings out the brightness of her eyes, and once you've got everything put together, such as your bronzers, once you bring the colour back to the face, it really makes those under eyes really pop. But Hattie has really beautiful eyes, and I really wanted to maximise the impact of those. Then just blending this out using a brush, and this brush is from BH Cosmetics, and this is what I use to get those really hard to reach areas. And now applying some of Laura Mercier's translucent powder with a slightly damp sponge from Real Techniques. And this is just going to bake the under eye, taking away from any creasing that might occur. And then I am just buffing that away with a plain buffing brush. This one is also from Real Techniques. There's nothing on the brush here, it's just going to take away from anything that was on there. Now patting on some powder from MAC. This is NC20 Studio Fix, just on the outer corners of her face. And then I'm just smearing away any additional powder and applying a little bit of NC15 by MAC. Now onto contouring. I am using Anastasia Beverly Hills contour palette in light medium, and I'm taking it's on the bottom row in the middle, it's almost like that grey brown, to contour the hollows of her cheeks and her jawline and just the top of her forehead, and coming along her nose as well. Now taking Too Faced Sweet Tea Bronzer, I am just going along that contouring just to make sure that it looks more seamless, coming underneath that jawline as well. I like this bronzer for a look like this because it's not entirely matte, it does have a slight amount of shimmer in it, so under photography it has that element of luminosity but still giving you the element of sun back to the skin. And I really like the finish of this product. And always going along the nose with that, just to bring back that sort of holiday-like skin back. And then I'm just going underneath with whatever was remaining on that NC20 powder brush, and I'm just carving out that contour with that. Now going underneath the eye, I am taking Huda Beauty Sandalwood again, and I'm going all the way under the eye, just to really give it that blown out effect. Now going directly underneath the eye with a pencil brush, I am just taking Rustic from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and then I am taking a really tiny tapered brush just to push in that colour Suede from the Huda Beauty palette. And then going on top of the lash line with that colour Noir, that black eyeshadow, just to really mould the lashes in with the lash line. Okay, this is probably the scariest part. I am taking a tool that I found at the masterclass with Makeup by Ariel, and this really bonds the natural lash and the eyelash together just by pushing them together. You could do this with your fingertips, but I think this is more precise, and it really allows them to almost become one. It actually cost me about £30 for just the tool on Amazon, but if you are interested in it, I will leave the product down below. Now going in with NYX's Chubby Eye Pencil, I'm just lining Hattie's waterline with this, continually warming that up on the back of my hand so I get maximum colour payoff, and it is a coppery shade. I will link the colour down in the description below as well. And then just going underneath with a little bit of mascara to bring out those bottom lashes. And just going over top of those lashes just to make sure that they really are moulded together now. Now I'm going in with that same chubby pencil and I'm providing a base to the inner corner highlight, and then just buffing that out using a Charlotte Tilbury buffer brush. And now going in with a Morphe Copper shade, which I will leave down below, just going underneath the eye and in the inner corner just to really give it that pop. This is really great on Hattie as she has very, very blue eyes, so it really does make them stand out. Now going in with a MAC glitter just on top of that, and this is, I believe this is MAC's Copper glitter, but I will pop it down below in case I'm wrong. And now going underneath that brow bone with Charlotte Tilbury's Bar of Gold palette, taking the lightest gold in the palette. And now going on to Hattie's highlight, I am taking Soft and Gentle by MAC along the top of her brow, her nose, and along her cheekbones. And I'm layering this with Charlotte Tilbury's Bar of Gold palette in the light gold shade. Now we're through with all that powder. After brushing the eyebrows through with the spoolie, I am setting them in place with Benefit's Clear Brow Gel, and I'm just brushing them up to give for that really fluffy brow look. Hattie does trim the inner corner, sort of the inner area of the tops of her brows, so I couldn't really bring that up, but I really could bring the sort of the top arch out just to really make for a beautiful, fluffy, natural brow. Now just going in with blusher, here I am using MAC's Warm Soul Blusher just on the apples of her cheeks, across the nose, and just to really bring that luminosity back to the skin as it is a natural shimmer blusher. And then setting her makeup in place using MAC's Fix Plus spray. And then going over top of this with Touch's Dewy Mist spray as well. Now lining her lips using MAC's Oak Lip Liner. Hattie has quite pouty lips anyway, so I didn't really feel the need to overdraw these. And just using that lip liner to line the outer parameters of her lips. Now applying some lipstick using MAC's Blankety. This is one of the amplified ranges, so it has that real creamy finish to the lips. And then just going in the centre with Marc Jacobs Sugar Sugar lip gloss just in the centre, just to really amplify the plumpness of those lips. I really love the Marc Jacobs lip gloss range, as I think they are a true lip gloss. They're so shiny and they smell like peppermint, so I really love them. Alright guys, that is the finished look. Hopefully you got a little bit more of an understanding as to how I like to go about doing makeup on clients, and went into it in a bit more detail today. So yeah, I'll be back with more client tutorials soon. If you did like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye bye!